Hello and welcome to the latest webinar on meters in ShireSystem. My name's Andy Taylor and I'll be taking you through the basics of setting up meters and meter reading routes. Meters within ShireSystem are a special type of asset. Although they have their own register, we can see them in the asset register in certain situations. Just take a look at our meter register there. I can see all the meters and I can select any one I particularly like and then see the details of it. I can also see all the readings that have been taken and a graph for those readings as well. Under the Readings tab, I can actually click on each one of these and check the detail. In certain situations, like this one here, when they're highlighted in yellow, I can edit that reading value, change the date and time to being earlier, not later, if for some reason we've entered it incorrectly. You'll notice that when somebody edits one of these readings, it shows them and not the person who originally put the detail in. The graph against each one shows me the most recent reading, and in this case 4 others, as it's set up to show me 5. But I can change that number, obviously, to a maximum number of readings that we've taken. Placing my mouse on here then shows me the details of that most recent reading or the one before. Depends where I place it. I can also view it as a bar chart instead of a line chart should I wish. There are several ways of adding readings in, and under the Readings tab I have got a plus button, so I can click on here and add a reading in. It will default to the current time on today, and of course I can change that to make it match the time and date that we took a reading. I can then type in my new number and save it. It adds it in at the top, and if I go to the graph, it is now the most recent reading in our graph. To see meters in the asset register, we go to the asset register and you may need to add in the column meter. This routinely automatically filters out meters from this list. But I can change it to include them, or in this case, just show the meters. And then I can select it. And then it's available to be edited should I need to. I say routinely they are hidden in the asset register. Now, because meters are an asset, you can carry out work against them, so they can be a work subject. You may well see them when creating work orders and setting up tasks. To create a meter, the easiest way that I find is to go to the asset or the location that you want to attach the meter to. So in this case, I am going to go to a particular BMW. And I want that one there, the 330D. And if I go to the meters tab, the first thing I can see is there are no meters attached to this particular asset. To create one against it, if I use the plus button here, I can now add the detail required. Now personally, I put a ZM at the beginning of my meter code. This means I can easily identify this as a meter when I'm scheduling work. It also puts it to the bottom of any alphabetical list of assets, helping separate it from the asset it's attached to. Now, the next part I tend to put in will be the asset description, or the asset code rather. So I now know that this is a meter attached to BMW 330D, number 1. And the last part, I will put in what it's reading. So if I have multiple meters against an asset or location, it will be very easy for me to determine which one is reading what. Now I also have a second free text field here, a meter description, so I can type in anything I like in there, up to 50 characters. My meter type, this comes from your lookup tables. And if I scroll down, there we go, we can pop our meter type in. And our meter reading type, we have 4 reading types: condition, 2 types of usage, and utility. Of course, utility, gas, water, electricity normally. Usage continuous, very similar to the utility. So it's a meter that will keep rolling round and at some point probably go back to 0 and then start off again, like the mileometer on a car. The incremental meters, these are like the trip meters on the car. The system will assume that every time I put a reading in to an incremental meter, I am resetting that meter back to 0. So it's always counting up from 0. Condition metering will be the subject of a separate webinar, but it does allow me to put a numerical value in against a meter and have that potentially trigger work. So in this case, I'll be using usage continuous. I need to tell it when the first reading was that I want to put on the system. I can change the time and the date on there. Now I can put my initial reading in. And my total usage to date. Now this could be a different number because we've replaced the meter with a new one, or potentially a second-hand one with a different reading on, or the meter has rolled round back to 0 again. In this case, I'm going to put the same reading in. Talking of things rolling over, there we go. We need to put in a number and say at what point does this meter roll over back to 0 again? So to a power of 10. Now those are our mandatory fields. We may want to put in the units. We may want to link this into a parent meter. There we go. When I save that, it's going to link it to this BMW. I can see there my initial reading. If I click on the meter name again, you'll see it brings up the details. It brings up the reading, singular, and our graph. As you can see, I can add a meter reading in from here. There are several ways of adding meter readings in, including through Mobile Pro. So if I put a second reading in, there we go, just save that. And you can see second reading's gone in. Obviously my graph was updated as well. That I can manually come in and add those meter readings in every time I want, or I can create a meter reading route. Allows me to put multiple meters together and schedule them to be part of planned work. So we can remind someone to go out, say every Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock and take all the meter readings in a particular area. To do that, I will need to go to my meter reading routes. Click on there, and this is where I can create that list of meters. So I'm going to add a new one, give it a name, and then save it. Now I can go to this box below and add in each meter one by one. And so on till I've added in all the meters I want to. If I need to, I can change the sequence that they're in. Just so that they're read in the order that makes most sense to whoever's going out to go and do it. With that very simple process done, I can now go to my task list and create and schedule a task to take that route and turn it into a piece of scheduled work. Now I do have one set up ready for vehicle meter readings in Southampton every week. So this is set up as any other piece of work, or any other task I should say, with a task code, a description, and a work type. Also a repeat type and a repeat frequency. Mandatory normal stuff. I can put in my estimated time, priority, assigned to, and so on. Obviously I can add in instructions, but what I really need to do now is go to this fourth tab over, meter routes. In here, when I hit plus, I can add in one or more of my meter routes. I'll just add Southampton cars and save it. Now all I've got to do is schedule this to happen however often I want it to occur. So I want this to happen every Friday at 2 in the afternoon. Against Southampton. Yeah, I'll start it off. There we go, this Friday, 2 p.m. Yeah, where you so successfully done against Southampton. Now, of course, I do need to go to the scheduler. And there I can see every week one piece of planned work to take those meter readings. So let's turn this first one into a piece of work. And if I view that one, let's see if I've done it right. If I go through the meter readings tab, what I should see in there, and I do, is our meters. Because I've scheduled this against a location that has a meter, I've done it at Southampton at top level, and Southampton at top level has an electricity meter set against it. It has also included that in this list. If I want to exclude that, then I'll have to do it at a slightly different location, so further down the chain. If I go to the meter routes tab though, and just click on Southampton cars, it will ignore that one and just show me the 4 to do with Southampton cars. All being on the same page now, I can go through, type in my new readings. Click Save. That has now updated the meters on all 4 of those vehicles. Even though this work order hasn't been closed yet, that change has taken place. Now, if I go and take a look at my latest meter I made, I will see under the readings, only a moment ago, I put in that value there, and that's the distance it's travelled since the last meter reading. Of course, it's also on the graph. Now all I've got to do is close that work order down, and then next Friday there'll be another work order to do with the same detail on it. We can go into enter route readings directly without creating a piece of work for it, but it's easier for most people if we schedule that work, then we know it has or hasn't been done this week, last week, or it's set up for next week. As you can see, I can click on Southampton cars, and again, I can manually enter those readings in from here. For those people who have smart metering installed and purchasing an API service, those meter readings could be set up to happen at whatever frequency you want them to do. So they'd automatically feed in every Friday, every hour, depends what you're wanting. That's all we have for the basics of meters in ShireSystem. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.